Back to the audience. James Beaudry, he is on the board of St. Anselm College Democrats, and he says currently he is supporting Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
This will be an ongoing joke for the rest of the town hall.
So my question is, teen suicide is on the rise in the United States. What would you do to make sure that teens and young adults get the mental health care that they need to prevent these tragedies?
Thank you for this question. I am so passionate about addressing the mental health crisis in our country. My brother's a clinical psychology professor, so I know that we can do much, much more for people who are struggling. We need to invest in counseling and therapists at the high school level at a minimum, make it so that if you do have struggles, you have a resource you can go to. I'm going to tie back in technology to this phenomenon because the mental health crisis we're seeing among young people right now, anxiety, depression, antisocial impulses, spiked when we got smartphones and social media apps into teenagers' hands. And I was a very awkward, introverted 12-year-old kid, not that you can tell now, I don't know. But when I was 12 years old, if I went home and closed the door, I felt like I was alone. Today, if you're 12, you close the door, you feel like your classmates are still in the room with you because you can take out your phone and see what they're talking about and saying at every moment. You know who doesn't let their kids use these social media apps and smartphones? The folks in Silicon Valley who made millions of dollars off of them. If you ever want to go to a screen-free environment, go to Silicon Valley. You will find there are no screens in sight for kids below a certain age. So if we want to address the mental health crisis in our young people, we need to get therapists in place and counselors. We need to destigmatize these struggles at the highest level. I would have a psychologist in the White House. I thought that was a good idea even before the current administration. But it just sends a very clear message that we all struggle and that it'll encourage people to step forward. We also do need to get into the guts of these social media apps and let these companies know that the mental health of our kids are more important than their profits.
Yeah. Listen, another issue that affecting mental health for many Americans, substance abuse. You not only want to legalize marijuana, but you also want to decriminalize small amounts of opioids like heroin and fentanyl. I mean, even Senator Bernie Sanders has made it clear, and I quote here, he says, marijuana is not the same as heroin. What do you say to voters who think that this is a bridge too far?
Well, it was a high school student who told me that his classmates have fentanyl patches on their shoulders and they're already addicted. They'll never seek help because it's an illegal substance. So he said, what are we going to do for them? And the fact is this epidemic, this opiate plague that has been tearing apart your communities here in New Hampshire for years is a plague that our government facilitated, essentially. Purdue Pharma dispensed millions of OxyContin prescriptions, marketing as a non-addictive wonder drug, to the point where there were more opiate prescriptions in the state of Ohio than there were human beings in the state of Ohio at one point. And our government signed off on that and said that's okay. And we're still struggling with the impact to this day. So the question is, how are you going to help your people actually get better and stronger and get off of these drugs? First, you have to get back all the blood money from Purdue Pharma and the other drug companies, take all the billions of dollars away and say this is going to be a down payment on treatment for our people to help them get stronger and better. But the second thing you have to do is you have to say to our people, look, this is not an individual failing. This is a plague that our government essentially helped happen. It's a plague of hyper-capitalism run amok. And if we catch you struggling with drugs, we are going to refer you to counseling and treatment and not to a prison cell. This is what other countries have done. It has reduced substance abuse rates and overdose rates. And this is what we should do in the United States of America. I think Bernie's wrong on this.
So here's when people hear decriminalize, I would think that they think legalize. That's not what you mean. There's a difference between decriminalizing and legalizing a substance. You don't want to legalize heroin. You don't want to legalize fentanyl, right? So explain the difference. What do you mean?
What you do is you say to your police departments, essentially, we should stop prosecuting this crime if someone's an addict and has drugs below a certain level. If they're a dealer, if they're profiting, they go straight to jail. But if they're struggling with addiction, they should not be heading to jail. They should be heading to counseling and treatment. And we should have safe injection sites so that if someone actually is trying to recover, they have someplace they can go. It was here in New Hampshire where an EMT told me that he saved someone from overdosing 1 week, and then what's he doing the following week? Saving the same person in the same place over and over again. And then One time he gets there and it's too late and that person's dead. And it was literally the 4th or 5th time that he had to save that individual in that apartment. And he said to me in an impassioned way, we need someplace for that person to go after I save them so I don't have to try and save them again the following week.
But you know it doesn't just affect that individual. It affects the entire family. So what do you do for families who are suffering from addiction? Not just them personally, but maybe it's a family member who's doing it.
And that's exactly right, Don, because these are not isolated problems. They're destroying families, they're destroying communities. There's nothing we can do to give people their children, their loved ones back, but we can give them a real path forward where if your loved one is struggling with addiction, imagine a world where you could refer them to treatment and there was not a fear that they were going to get thrown in jail, that there was an actual place they could go physically that has treatment resources available to them, that they don't have to come home or go home alone where you're worried about them. What are they going to do when they're alone? You can say, look, don't be alone. Go to this place where someone will actually look after you and make sure that you don't overdose.
But if I can just follow quickly, because what I'm trying to get at is, if you want to take the stigma away, you have to involve the family, because many times in the family's embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
Or they even think that there's a stigma to it. So I'm asking you, what do you do for the family of an individual to try to help with that?
Don, when I talk to family members of people who've been struggling with opiate addiction, their first and foremost concern is not the stigma. Their first and foremost concern is whether their loved one's actually going to get well, get treatment, and not overdose. Mm-hmm. So if your relative, your brother, your son is struggling, you would be thrilled just to have some place to go with them. You're more concerned about their life and safety than you are what the neighbors might think.
Thank you for answering that.
Are all y'all paying attention? Automation gonna sweep the nation unless we get him in. Andrew Yang, 2020 freedom dividend. Climate change is real again. Science rules. Teachers bringing home some bread. Medicare for every citizen. That's nice. Andrew Yang, 2020 freedom dividend.